Yeah, thank you, Ashley.
Oh, what's so there?
Sorry. Hey, Chair, we can go ahead and start. We got the YouTube working.
Okay. Before calling this meeting to order, I'd like to ask the commissioners to refrain from using the chat feature on the Zoom. All questions should be made publicly unless there's computer connectivity issue. Uncle Desmond, would you be willing to offer a pule today? You're muted.
Yeah. I'll just oli aloha o nauna I ka hala me ka lehua. He hale lehua no ia no ka noe. O ka uno ia e ano I nei. E lia nei ho I o. Ka hiki mai, a hiki mai no oe. Hiki pū me ke aloha. Aloha e, aloha e, aloha e. A mama ua noa. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. Aloha mai kako. Good morning, everyone. The hybrid meeting of the Cultural Resource Commission will now come to order. Quorum has been established with 5 members in attendance. Yes, Desmond?
Oh, that's right. We have a new chair. His hair is all nice. Sorry.
I got it pulled back for today. I'm trying to look professional. Today is Wednesday, May 8th, 2024, and it is 10:08 a.m. Pursuant to the Act 220 Sessions Law of Hawaii 2021, which amended the Sunshine Law to allow for meetings to be remotely conducted online, effective January 1st, 2022, the Cultural Resources Commission will host a hybrid meeting of online and in-person participants. An in-person location has been identified on the agenda for the public to provide testimony on agenda items and to view the meeting. This meeting can also be viewed live online. A link to the YouTube live stream is now provided on the county website. The video recording will remain on the YouTube channel for those who are not able to watch it live. Reports and surveys reviewed during the hearing are available on the county website. Commissioners, please be reminded that only one person may speak at a time. Raise your hand to be recognized if you have a question or comment. And I see that Kulea has joined us, so we actually have a quorum with 6 in attendance. Commissioners, please introduce yourselves and report if others are present at your location. I think we will start with Scott.
Yeah, Scott Mahoney. I'm alone at home.
Hello, Aaron.
Hi, Commissioner Spielman. It's just me. You might see my dogs or my wife walk through.
Nicole. Oh, you're muted, Nicole.
Hello, Mike. Hi, Nicole Louis. Yes, I'm home with 3 other family members and 2 doggies.
Desmond. Oh, you're muted, sorry.
Aloha, aloha kakayaka, Uncle Des. 2 dogs, 2 cats, 1 pig, and just me.
Mahalo. Kule.
Kakahiaka noia kako. I have one of my daughters at home with me. Mahalo.
And I am Commissioner Clark. I am alone in my office. CRC staff support joining us today are Kevin Sullivan, planner, Kim Tanaka, planner, Ashley DeVera, board secretary, and Jean Campbell, deputy corporation counsel. Pursuant to HRS 92-3, interested persons who want to provide oral testimony may do so either at the beginning of the meeting when the board takes public statements on the agenda items or immediately before the specific agenda item is called. Staff, please indicate if there are any members of the public wishing to provide public testimony online or in person?
We do not have anybody signed up ahead of time. We do have one person in attendance via Zoom. If she wants to testify, she can make herself, she can inform us at this time.
Is that Penny that I see on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Penny, would you like to provide any testimony at this time, or would you like to wait for an agenda item?
Or just listen.
Or just listen? Okay.
We'll take that as just listening at this point. Yeah. And she can obviously follow up and contact staff at any time.
Okay, got it. Well, I guess that means we move on to the first agenda item. And agenda item 1 is for Hawaii Volcanoes National Park Draft Traditional Cultural Property Study. We have Summer Roper Todd from the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park joining us today. I believe, Summer, you have a presentation and you're going to be able to provide information about this
I
item.
do, yeah.
Feel free to introduce yourself. I'm going to turn it over to you and go ahead.
Okay. Hey, thanks for having me. It's nice to see everybody and kind of meet virtually everybody. My name is Summer and I work in the Cultural Resource Division of the National Park in Volcano. I'm the Cultural Resource Program Manager here and also the Section 106 Coordinator, which is a very technical term, but I can explain more of that later. Yeah, so I've been working up here in the park for about 23 years now. I'm pretty familiar with all the cultural resources in the park and all the natural resources. And I'm really excited to share this project with you guys and hear any good feedback you might have. So yeah, I'll just get started. Let me try to share my screen. I'm not familiar with Zoom, so you got to bear with me just a minute. Let's see.
I think Kevin can help if you have questions.
Okay. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Yes, Aaron, do you have a question?
Sorry, I meant to mention, and I'm supposed to maybe in full disclosure state that at one point in my distant past, I worked on a project at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park.
Oh,
Professionally.
nice.
I documented the shipment house at Idaho for the National Park Service, but it was through an architect on Oahu. So I don't think that's going to impact my review or anything like that, but I just.
Oh, okay.
I think today we're just asking for input. I don't know that we're doing any motions or anything. I too have worked in the park and I'm currently working in the park on the project. So.
It's a great place to work.
I may as well add to that too. I was approached some years ago to restore the hale at the Pahula.
Okay.
I went before, I forget who it was, some years ago. Not in exchange, I ended up working on the Ahuena Hale, working on collecting over 4,000 leaves for traditional hale and stuff like that.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess anyway, I just wanted to share that. I was approached to do that.
Yeah.
We went there often to perform with my students and halau.
Awesome. Okay, I wasn't successful yet on sharing my screen, so sorry guys, hold on.
That's okay.
So when I put this on, can you guys see it? Can you guys see that?
Not yet.
Okay, hold on. Let's see.
There should be a green share button at the bottom of your screen.
Yeah, I see the green share button, but then when I see the list, I don't see my PowerPoint listed.
You have more than one screen up or more than one monitor?
Yes, I have several monitors. Maybe I'm on the wrong monitor.
Potentially,
wait,
or you just drag it to that monitor.
I think I might have figured it out. Let's see. Can you guys see that?
Yeah,
Yes.
It looks like it's there. You go.
Yay. Okay.
Bingo.
Oh, when I open it though, then I can't see you guys. Okay. Well, let me see if I can.
You should be able to. Yeah, that's a common That's a common issue, actually, when you start the presentation and it opens up on another monitor.
Can you see it still or no?
We see PowerPoint, but not the presentation that PowerPoint has opened for you. You can unshare and maybe try sharing the other monitor,
Okay.
and then we probably will lose sight of you, but we'll still be able to hear you, and we'll just see the presentation, which is
How
fun.
about that?
Yes,
Yep.
bingo.
Yay. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me and being patient. Okay. So as it was mentioned, I'm going to talk about the traditional cultural property study that I believe you guys have for review. So I wanted to just give some project background about how this study and the National Register nomination came to fruition. I was going to give just a brief overview of the National Register. I think a lot of you guys are probably familiar, but I just wanted to add that in. And then some examples that we have in the park of national registers and some of the historic property identification we have so far documented. And there's many more that need to be documented. Likely, we haven't surveyed the whole entire park, but I'll just show you guys where we're at today. And then I'm just going to dive into the TCP study, our goals for the study and the National Register, and then just a discussion. And feel free to ask questions anytime. Okay, now how do I make it go forward? Sorry. Oh,
Maybe.
there we go.
sometime- Yep.
Got it. Sorry, guys. Okay, so I'm sure everyone's familiar with the 2018 eruptive event that occurred that impacted a lot of our island, and especially here in the park with the collapse of the caldera. So the Jagger Museum and the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory buildings right on the edge of the crater got very damaged. So that was one of the effects we had. So through our general management plan, it was said that if those buildings were damaged, one of the considerations would be to remove the buildings. And so that's what, through the consultation and all the NEPA process, that we decided to remove those buildings. And because the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory building is going to be removed, we decided through that process to move it back off the caldera. And so there's a new construction right by the Kilauea military camp. And then another part of the project after this eruptive event is to realign the Crater Rim Drive. So right after the fee booth, there's going to be a roundabout to address some of the congestion and safety issues with the roadway. And then in the original part of the project, we were going to build a new visitor center because we had the Jagger Museum and the Kilauea Visitor Center both provided those visitor contact services. But with the loss of the Jagger Museum, we're down to one visitor center, which isn't large enough to accommodate to make the visitor contacts. So through the consultation process with 106 and our Native Hawaiian consultation through our Kapuna group, it was determined that taking down a big section of the forest was not appropriate to build a new building. So we pivoted the project. We took the comments and we said, okay, we're not going to do that. And we pivoted to do a rehabilitation of the existing visitor center. So we're going to be taking out some of the office spaces to make the space bigger on the inside. And we're also going to be building an exterior halau to have, because the visitor center is not open 24 hours a day. So we'll have some exhibits and things in this open halau adjacent to the visitor center. So people come when it's closed, or it just provides more space to contact visitors and maps and everything. So because of all these changes, we go through the process to assess effects to historic properties. The Jagger Museum being a historic building that's coming down, it's determined an adverse effect. And then the roundabout is adding a new feature into the historic road. So that's considered an adverse effect. And the rehabilitation of the Kilauea Visitor Center is considered an adverse effect. And this was a very interesting process because we had different viewpoints in the consultation. We had some groups that were very interested in sticking to the Secretary of Interior standards. The building was built in the 1940s, and the significance is the Civilian Conservation Corps error. But then we had another group, the Kupuna group, that really wanted architecture that was more reminiscent of Hawaiian Kingdom era architecture with like the double pitch roof and everything. And so we had a little bit of a conflicting viewpoints. And through the process, the park decided to go with the Hawaiian Kingdom era architecture. But because it's a new architectural element in this historic district, it was considered an adverse effect. So it was interesting because you had a couple different histories, you know, in the same location. So when we have adverse effects, which the Park Service, we try not to, we're a preservation agency, but because of all these changes, we have adverse effects. So we developed agreements with all the different groups that we're consulting with. And so we have a programmatic agreement and a memorandum of agreement, which has all these mitigations to resolve these adverse effects. So what we're going to be doing is this list you see here. We're going to be updating. We have 2 national registers that are within this caldera, Kilauea caldera area. We have the Crater Rim Historic District. This was a cultural landscape inventory was completed in 2006. So it's kind of out of date. There's been a lot of changes, you know, part of the roadway fell in, some changes. So one of the mitigations is to put this into a national register and update it with the post-project conditions and any of the other changes that have occurred. The other one is the Kilauea Administration and Employee Housing Historic District. And that's where the Kilauea Visitor Center is located. And there's also some other buildings that were built in that era that make up the district. So that one was also done in 2006. So a mitigation is to put that one into the National Register as well. And then that will reflect the post-project conditions. And then another one is the Traditional Cultural Property Study and the National Register nomination. So we have 3 national registers coming out of this that's in the agreement. And then also archaeological monitoring will be taking place during any ground disturbance. And we're going to be developing a web page to highlight the Civilian Conservation Corps history. It'll have a story map. And so that one's tied to the Kilauea Administration and Employee Housing Historic District, but they also did work throughout the park. So that's just one of the other mitigations. So the parks, the Hawaii volcanoes, it's been a long time that we've wanted to try to pursue a TCP, but it's hard to get, you have to compete for the funding. And so this actually is providing the funding for us to complete all these different nominations. So what is the National Register and why is it so important? So the National Register is the official list of the nation's historic places worthy of preservation. And the guiding regulation is the National Historic Preservation Act. So any federal undertaking in federal lands, or if the project has federal funding tied to it, it falls under the National Historic Preservation Act, and you have to go through this process called 106. So I think the state does 6E. So 106 is kind of similar. So any property, cultural resource that has been determined eligible for the National Register has to be considered under this process. So when the project is put forth, then you look at whatever historic properties have been determined eligible that fall within the project, and you have to say, how is this project going to affect these historic properties, and what can we do to make sure there's no adverse effects if possible. And so that's the goal for every project, is to avoid adverse effects. If you really cannot, like for example, taking the Jagger Museum down, then you come up with a mitigation to resolve them. So this is just a good example that I like to give because it's an easy one to digest, the Washington Place. So with the National Register, there's 4 criteria. And so to be eligible to be on the National Register, you have to hit at least 1. Some National Registers, they hit all 4. This one's a good example because it's a beautiful building with obviously work of a master, craftsmanship. So it hits criterion C. And then obviously it's a significant historical person. So it hits criterion B, and probably even A, historical events. So yeah, sometimes they hit all 4. Often, sometimes they hit 1, but it has to be eligible under at least 1, and it has to have historic integrity. And so with the National Register, When you go through this process of determining first if it's eligible, and then you determine like what makes it eligible, and you have like basically a list of character defining features or contributing things that you want to protect. And so just wanted to put that out there. So I'll talk about that more later. So I apologize, this map's a little out of date. I didn't have time to update it. We have 3 new parcels that we have acquired since this map was made, which is, one is Pahue, which is on the Makai side here of Kahuku, the Ahupua'a Kahuku, goes all the way down to the ocean. I don't know if you guys are familiar. And then we have 2 more acquisitions in this area in Ka'u on this side of the border that have bumped out the boundary a little more. But the reason why I'm sharing this map is because it has graphics on the historic property identification that we have done so far in the park. Some big historic districts. This one with the lines is the Punaka'u Historic District, which is full of lots of archaeological resources, ethnographic resources. And then we have a lot of overlapping districts in the Kilauea Summit area, as well as up on Mauna Loa. And like I mentioned before, we haven't surveyed the whole park, so there's definitely still more work to do, but there's been a lot done. It's awesome. We have a lot of documentation so far. So this is just a closer in of the summit area. So when we developed the mitigations after the 2018 eruption, we looked at a lot of the nominations that were, or a lot of the cultural landscapes to put into nominations that were outdated. And then we do have one National Register nomination that is for the Kilauea caldera. And the boundary is the caldera itself. And this was one of the early ones done in 1974. And so we're like, should we update that one? But it didn't really make sense because it's just the caldera. And it's, you know, it's obvious that the ethnographic resources extend way beyond that. And so we're like, you know what? It's more appropriate to do a traditional cultural property because then we can accomplish way more than trying to update this one that was done so long ago and it's really restricted to just one place. And so that's why instead of updating that one, the traditional cultural properties nomination was determined to be more appropriate. So I just showing some pictures of some of our districts. This is the footprint you guys are probably familiar with. That district is this big kind of pinkish color. And then these are just some of the resources within the Punaka'u Historic District. It's full of archaeological resources and a lot of different ethnographic resources. And the built environment, we have a lot of historic buildings. All of our roads in the park are historic. The trails, pretty much a lot of the built infrastructure is all historic. Okay, is there any questions about any of that so far? You guys good? Okay, so what is the Traditional Cultural Property National Register nomination? So when the National Register was put in place way before 1980, it really focused on the built environment because the built environment's, you know, easy to see. You have a building, you can nominate that to the National Register. You have a big archaeological site, it's tangible, you can see it. And so a lot of these things were getting documented. It's great. A lot of things were going on the National Register, but there was a lack in the ethnographic resources of documenting and bringing this up to the same recognition because a lot of them are intangible. Like you have a natural landscape that might be a place where people do cultural practices that should be protected, but it's not like a built tangible thing. So it wasn't as easy to document, right? And so that's when it started to be recognized that these things needed to be documented as well. And so in 1980, the TCP was established and added to the National Register, but it goes through the same process. So it has to be eligible. And for the TCPs, it's a place that where a living community has cultural practices. And it's important and it roots people into the community's history. And it maintains that cultural identity of the community. Like I said, it's often intangible. It might be a natural landscape. And so the places weren't really being documented through the traditional ways of doing like archaeological inventories or architectural surveys like the other national registers. But they could be identified through interviews of community members, knowledgeable users of the area, and other forms of ethnographic research. So there's a lot of benefits to doing this. So the designation, determining it's eligible for the National Register is a way to protect it. And it brings it, that 106 process will apply. And the same thing, like one thing that's important about a traditional cultural property is it's something that was significant in historical times in the past, today, and something that we want to preserve for the future. So, and then it gets afforded those same protections under the National Historic Preservation Act as a historic building would, or another National Register nomination. And that TCP is determined by the community that values it. So we have a Kupuna consultation group here at the park that we have been consulting with for the development of this traditional cultural property. And a lot of the Puna and Ka'u community members are involved in the TCP determination. And so for the Hawaii volcanoes traditional cultural property, the goal is to document the cultural significance of Pele Honua-Mea and all her physical elemental representations in consultation with the Native Hawaiian individuals and organizations that will inform the process. So with that being said, there's a lot of challenges with this type of documentation because we're trying to fit this thing into this National Register form, which has a certain way you follow it. So the TCP must have a boundary, and with the TCP, a boundary is really difficult, because when you're talking about Pele Honua-Mea and all her physical representations, that goes way beyond our park. It's the whole island chain and beyond, right? So it's hard to put a boundary on it, but for the National Register, you have to put a boundary. And then you have to determine the eligibility criteria. And then there's a statement of significance. So it has to fit into the format, which is possible. It's just challenging. So, and then with our consultation with our Kupuna, the boundary is likely just going to be the whole entire park because that's not even the whole, the boundary goes beyond that. And so it's going to be important in the nomination to recognize that. And I've been looking at the one that was done for Mauna Kea, and they do an excellent job of really articulating that this is just an arbitrary boundary, and this goes beyond this. So it's really important to add that into the document so that it's well understood. And then some other things I wanted to talk about why it's important to do. So as park managers, we take into consideration the ethnographic resources when we have projects, but this is a way to formalize that, right? To put it into the form and to have that status. Because as the managers of the park, we can recognize that and put that into our planning processes, but it's a good way to communicate with other agencies too. So for example, we just had a project working on the air tour management plan with the FAA, right? And so to give this document to them, be like, here, this has been documented, because the people we're working with, they're not here, right? And so it's a really good communication tool to be like, here's what has been documented as important and that we have to consider. And so that it formalizes it. So it really helps us communicate with other agencies as well, or people that aren't here, or having that tool so that anybody could pick up and read it and say, okay, here's the things that are important that we need to protect for the future. And so it just formalizes it more, which is an important thing to do. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted to mention about that. But yeah, so that, and yeah, it's for the future park managers, it's a good, the goal that I would like to see is to have this document be picked up by anyone, whether you know everything or you haven't even been to Hawaii and you haven't been to the park, and then you can understand what needs to be protected. And so the challenge is extracting that information out of the study you guys have to review, and then kind of putting it into this concise National Register format. And so that's the goal. The TCP study has the 3 parts that you guys have: the ethno-historical overview, the oral history interviews, the documentary references. And so it's taking that information, that big, gigantic document, and then kind of extracting out what we need to extract out to put in the National Register. And so the National Register format, you have a statement of significance, and then you have contributing resources, and you're also going to have non-contributing resources. And so the contributing resource list is what the things that you have to consider for protection. And so that's what we need to get into the National Register nomination. So yeah, so just to recap, the study will feed into the National Register nomination. And then they have to determine what criteria of the National Register it meets. It has a statement of significance, basically saying why it's important, and then the contributing versus the non-contributing resources and the boundary. Those are all the things that are required to go into the National Register. And so there's not a lot of these have been done. This is definitely going to be, precedent setting. I have been reading over the Mauna Kea one, and so just looking at other examples is also hopefully going to be helpful in this process. And then to assist your review, Kepa Mali and Onauna Mali have put the historical background together, and I don't know if you've noticed, if you guys gotten to look yet, but they've done a lot of underlining throughout the document to try to draw your eyes to certain places. And so these underlines are for place names, site references, this whole list here, landscape features, traditions, practices. And so it kind of underlines that to help the reviewer, because there's a lot of information, and some of it's not something you just like read top to bottom necessarily. Some of the stuff, some of it is, it's really good information, but just to help facilitate your review, that the underlying is pretty helpful. And there's a lot of historic maps in there. So yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. And here's, if you guys are interested in a couple examples of ones that have actually been completed, the Lauetlala one is very interesting. It's kind of similar because it's a volcanic landscape, Mount St. Helens, and it documents the traditions, the indigenous cultural traditions of that landscape. So it's a good example, I feel like. So if anybody's interested, I'd be happy to share those. Those are actually completed on the National Register. And yeah, I think that was all I wanted to go over. And I would be happy to answer any questions to the best I can if you guys have any.
Mahalo, Summer. That was really informative. I think I saw Aaron's hand go up. Do you have a question, Aaron?
Just a quick question. What was the difference between contributing versus non-contributing, please? Can you clarify that?
Yeah, sure. I can answer that one. Okay, so with the National Register, so this is a challenge because we have all this overlap, right? So we have overlapping historic districts, like for example, say the Kilauea military camp falls within the whole park boundary, right? So if the TCP is the whole park boundary, maybe that Kilauea military camp is a non-contributing resource to that, right? So it's something that falls within the boundary that might not necessarily contribute to this specific National Register. So like maybe a contributing resource for this National Register would be the quiet, if you want to come up and do cultural practices, or the steam, or some kind of volcanic element, right? So that could be listed as contributing, and a non-contributing resource might be the road or something. So it's like, when you look at contributing, it's what you want to consider for protection. The non-contributing for that National Register, like the road, might not fall underneath what we're looking at for that particular one. Now, if you're looking at a historic road National Register nomination, yes, the road would be contributing, but that's not what this one would be. So that would be non-contributing. Does that make sense? So as a manager, when we're doing Section 106, we take the National Register, it's our management tool. We say, okay, what's contributing? Is this project going to have an effect to this contributing resource? Like say, and if it does, we need to make sure that doesn't happen. So that's our go-to basically. So those contributing resources are the most important thing in the National Register. And so when you're reviewing, that's something to think about, like, okay, what would be contributing? And so, yeah, that's the list that we need to include. Hopefully that helps.
I have a question about where are you in the process? I know you mentioned maybe the boundaries, the whole park. Have you started the list? What are the next steps? And I've looked through Kipano now and stuff is amazing. There's so much information in there. I really enjoyed reading their introduction. But But yeah, I suppose you're responsible for filling out the National Register form, and I know you do that in consultation with the Kumuna Group. And just where are you in that process?
Yeah, it's a good question. So right now, the TCP study is out for review. The period of review is open until June 7th. We'll take all the comments from that, and then that will be given to the contractor for the development of the National Register nomination. So the TCP study will be finalized first. So depending on the comments, if it needs editing, it will be finalized. And then the final TCP study will be given to the contractor to develop the National Register nomination. And then we'll have some consultation meetings. That's when the boundary will be defined. We'll have review of the contributing versus non-contributing. We'll be doing it in consultation with our Kupuna group, and have a few meetings as that process goes forward. So that will happen, and then eventually that form will get finalized. We take that final form, we submit it to the National Register. The National Register may have comments that we have to address when it comes back, and then hopefully it just gets accepted and put on the National Register. So that's the final frontier, is when they sign it. But one good thing about doing the eligibility is even if something's been determined eligible, even if you haven't filled out a National Register form, it still gets protected. So even when we were working with the air tour management plan, the park determined eligible as a TCP, and so we're able to use that eligibility. But this just formalizes it more and has the form filled out. So that's the next steps.
So specifically today, you'd be looking for input from us on the TCP study and any comments we may have on that.
Yeah, if you guys have, the comment period's open till June 7th. So as you look at it, if you could just think about, the National Register process and the contributing resources, and kind of any mana'o you want to share on how to formalize the nomination based off the information from the study, or anything you want to share. Honestly, any comments, we'd love to hear it. So yeah, anything about the project or the process or the content in the study. I think it's going to be, TCP National Registers are more difficult than just documenting a building. So I think any ideas or thoughts we can get to help assist us. The goal is to really make this an effective management tool. So yeah, any ways anybody can help us get to that goal, that would be awesome. So, or any comments you have on anything else. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
Does it help at all to have some kind of CRC letter of support, or are you past that? You're not looking for, you're looking for more individual feedback on the report itself?
Yeah, individual feedback is great. I'm open to whatever. Yeah, we're here to receive any comments. So I don't really have a preference or anything. We're happy to hear from anyone that take the time out to provide feedback.
Just one more comment is that the report and the depth of information was fantastic and certainly thorough. And I kept thinking as I was reading it that this information isn't available to the wider public, but you touched on having that kind of map or go-to visual. If there was some kind of interactive way of interpreting that, people with their tech and everything, some way of seeing that as opposed to just a physical map on a wall on display. That's what I've been having in mind, is how important it is to get this information into the brains of people that otherwise don't know anything about it.
Yeah, story maps are really a really cool tool these days that yeah, we're working on some of those for our website. We actually have one on the website already for Indigenous place names. That's really cool. And yeah, I think in today's age, it's just such a good way to reach people, and it's interactive where you can click on the different locations and read about the different places. And yeah, so it wouldn't be part of the National Register nomination, but certainly the nomination could be used to develop something like that, which is another reason why it's really good to formalize these things in these kind of documents, because then they can be used for other things like a story map, or it's all just consolidated information, right? That's together. So yeah, it could be used for other things like that to reach a broader audience. Because I don't know how many people are just going to sit down and read a National Register nomination, but they'll look at a story map and they'll click around. You know, it's pretty fun. So.
This is Kevin. Just to maybe help a little bit too. I think Summer can take forward any comments that we provide her verbally today during this meeting, anything that's helpful. Regarding a letter, my estimation is that it would probably, and Summer, you can clarify, it would probably be most useful once the TCP study is finalized so that it can go alongside the National Register nomination to the agency that's approving that, right? So that they can see that the county supports the nomination as based upon that finalized TCP study. So
Yeah.
we could wait and until that TCP study is finalized and have another meeting that would then provide that support letter that staff can put together.
I think that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's in our rules too. As you all know, how we've done it similar with other national and state nominations to provide that support letter that ultimately comes from the mayor. So yeah, I hope that helps. So
Yeah.
I guess the brass tacks of what that means today is, like Chairman Clark mentioned earlier, I don't believe there's a need for any formal motions today. Not to say that you can't do them, but I'm not sure there's a dire need. That sort of thing can wait till we do a letter. I hope that helped.
That sounds great. Yeah, when we get further along in the National Register process, I mean, I'll be sending out the drafts and stuff for review. So, you guys will be tracking where we're at. But yeah, I don't know if anybody has anything you want to comment on or questions. I could do my best to answer. Just let me know while we're here, or any ideas, or if anything didn't make sense, please let me know. But yeah, it's an exciting project, and it's something that we wanted to do for a long time. So this is an opportunity where we can get this completed, and it's a great opportunity. And then we'll just have the ethnographic resources will be afforded those same protections as all the other National Register nominations in the country, which is awesome.
I mean, I'll just add my verbal comment now. I really support this traditional cultural property nomination. I'm really curious to see how the process goes, and I know it's going to be difficult to balance all the different historic districts and stuff going on in the park and tourism with things like you mentioned, quiet and steam and all of that. So I commend you for taking this on and making it happen. I guess the question I have is, what do you see as the primary benefits of this nomination, and do you see any drawbacks from it?
No, I think the primary benefits are, protecting cultural resources for future generations. And that's what we're here for at the park. So that's our main goal. And I think just kind of having all the different layers of history and cultural resources protected in this formalized way is a good thing. I don't really see any drawbacks with it, honestly. I think it actually makes our jobs easier, because when we have these tools to just turn to say, here's all the things we need to protect, and it's formalized, then it just communicates with all the other divisions within the park, with other agencies or adjacent landowners. So yeah, no, it makes it easier, honestly, for the managers, because we have it documented and we can just pull it and say, here we go, here's what we need to protect. And yeah, it makes it much easier for us.
I'm glad to hear it. Does anyone else have any comments they'd want to share, or anything for Summer? Desmond, go ahead.
I have a few questions. Thank you for your presentation. That's awesome. I've worked with the National Registry on 2 projects, and it's really difficult working with the federals, DOI, especially with the state, because as you know, Hawaii is illegally occupied by the United States. So working with the state of Hawaii makes it more difficult. But I commend you on your work because you got a lot of work ahead of you. We're still fighting with that. We had a kupuna that was involved in that one registry, and she had passed away already. So we're just trying to carry on the work. One question is, this is your first attempt in doing this national registry?
For the TCP, it is. It's something that we wanted to do for a while, but you have to get the funding. So the funding is competitive. We apply for the funding. And so this finally afforded us the opportunity to receive the funding to be able to complete it. So
the other question, you have a list of your kupuna counts. I hear that Kepa is involved, so I work with him closely. But you have a list of your kupuna council available?
I'm not sure if we're allowed to share it out technically. So but yeah, Kepa's been helping with this project. So he's been presenting some of the information to our group. But yeah, I think we have to keep the it's kind of anonymous. So sorry, I can't really share that. But it's a lot of our, Puna and Ka'u district kupuna that we have a big list, and there's only kind of a smaller group that come to the meetings because a lot of people are busy. But yeah.
The anonymous list is because they might get feedback from other Hawaiians?
No, it's just the way we have. I just don't think as the agency is not allowed to share that. It doesn't have anything to do with them. It's just kind of how we have to do things. So
in this council, with the work you're doing, because you mentioned document of Pele Honua Mea, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So in this document, it also has addressed ancestral relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So the name Keawehaku is familiar?
I don't. It's not familiar to me.
Kalawai Hulu.
Mm-mm. But we're welcome any feedback from anybody that would like to comment and provide any kind of information, or if they want to be included on the consultation, that's also always welcome.
The reason I mention that because Pele is the focus here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as a Haumea, I was raised in that essence, in that realm, establishing her lineage, her mo'okuauhau all the way to Tahiti, especially Taravao. So not even the names of Kupe, or especially Kupe, who came in the 650s, or knowledge about Hawaii law. You have those information?
I'd have to look through the study for that, but we're welcoming any, if we want to add anything, this is the good time to add those comments if it's not already in there. So yeah, that's great for you to add that to the comments, then we can make sure it's included. And then if you want to be involved in the consultation more closely, or an interview, we can add that too.
I was involved some years ago. We even did the promotional video for national parks and went national. During that time, I thought they were trying to attempt to do this. I had both cousins working up there. One even filmed him fishing with his ohia pole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, but nothing as a part of that process was to rehabilitate and restore the hale on the pahula.
Mm-hmm.
Which never came to fruition. It's still dangerous for our children to go in there. Just my concern is, you mentioned kupuna view on a Hawaiian kingdom as far as your building of your buildings there. Mm-hmm. Was any of the Royal Societies or the Hawaiian Civic Clubs contacted, especially the Royal Order of Kamehameha or the Order of Kamehameha, who represents the Kingdom of Hawaii in its illegally occupied United Hawaii?
So the inspiration for the architecture was coming from our kupuna group. And so that was something that they were really interested in including, because they felt like with the 1940s architecture, like that is kind of left out. And so that was their viewpoint. Like, if we're going to build something new, we should incorporate that into the architecture. And so that was coming from the Kupuna group. And so that was something that was really important for them to include and not just have it be restricted to that 1940s look.
Well, my question is, you mentioned the Hawaiian Kingdom.
Yes. So I guess the architectural form is being referred to as like inspired by architecture that was common during that time. So like the roof form and everything. So that's just what we referred to it as, like defined it as, that inspired from that era, right? Like the roof form and kind of the open halau look for the architecture.
And Summer, is that architecture and that building going to fall under the TCP nomination? No, or
no,
as
I don't-
non-contributing?
Yeah, I think that because that's going to be in the built environment, that would be
Right.
part of the non-contributing. Any of the buildings would be non-contributing.
So just
That's
based on
that's in a separate kind of overlapping historic district.
Right, okay.
so with that being said, that it has no value whether it's built in the realm of the kingdom, Hawaiian Kingdom, correct?
No, that I guess it's a little bit hard. Like there's all these different districts, right? So that would be part of the Kilauea Administration and Employee Housing District. That's where that building is going to be. So right in the visitor center, right in front, like right next to it.
I guess what I'm getting is I wouldn't like to see our kupuna or ancestral realm be subject to being just a token Hawaiian, just to move things forward. That actually there is a value in viewing the Hawaiian Kingdom and what is culturally and kupuna correct, that we're not being used this as a stepping stone to get to where you want to get. Especially in establishing those ancestral relationships based on Pele, and you mentioned documents. That should be made public, so we're not handcuffed to an anonymous kupuna council that maybe some of the Hawaiian people or the cultural practitioners might not agree with.
Yeah.
And to have a formal presentation addressing the Hawaiian Kingdom, especially. That's my concern. I just don't want to be subject to being a token Hawaiian.
I understand. Yeah.
This is a sensitive issue because you're talking about Pele,
Yeah.
and she's not Hawaiian, yeah. But we use her as a metaphor, as a way to move our culture forward, which is correct. But a lot of the knowledge that's being passed is not, pre-contact. So I'm just concerned with that this anonymous group is filled with people that have the skill and knowledge and ancestral relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, the Kupuna group that we have for the park are definitely, genealogically tied to the lands of, that make up the park. And we have a pretty good group.
I understand that. It's just that you mentioned Kau. Kau right now with the current development of Punalu is divided.
Yeah.
They're divided.
Yeah.
So if some of those kupuna that, I don't know which side of the fence they're sitting part of this process,
Yeah.
it needs to be addressed correctly.
And even within, like that being said, even within the group, there's definitely, differing opinions for sure. Not everybody agrees all the time. Oftentimes it comes down to voting because not everyone agrees. So
well, I understand that
there's differing
that the national park is a federal entity working within the state of Hawaii. And this business of being anonymous, it doesn't sit well with me. I mean, if they're kupuna, then kupuna should be able to share, especially their ike. I'm done.
I guess, Summer, that brings up the question, are there going to be public meetings associated with the TCP nomination? Oh, she might have lost connectivity.
Well, we're having one now. I know what you mean though. And we'll have another. I'm just filling some air while we wait for her to reconnect. And I'll let her answer the remainder of them. Des, do you, I understand the architecture thing. Do we understand the sort of overlapping, how we've got multiple things going on there? So the TCP, as I understand this, is more so the intangible cultural aspects. And then
I understand that totally.
Yeah,
With the
okay.
development of the pharmaceutical college and then the Hawaiian college up at the UH was part of that. That artwork was very kupuna oriented.
Okay.
To show the artwork of our kupuna. So, you know. And attached to that is a whole bunch of educational signage and things like that, which the national park does really well. But we don't, she mentioned Mauna Kea, that was a fault that we're experiencing today, that the education was not correct going up to the Mauna. Kilauea is also acknowledged as a wau akua.
Right.
You know, so there's protocols and rituals involved in that. I'm just surprised that the Kupuna Council I understand the federal.
So another thing we can do after this meeting, individual members can go through staff with any concerns, and we can pass that on to Summer as well. Oh, she's back. Can you hear us, Summer?
Yeah, sorry, my computer glitched out, but yeah,
That's okay.
I didn't mean to drop off. So sorry about that.
No worries.
E make e manao e kuule ame Nico. O mahoni.
I think the only troubling thing was just saying that you even have a name for them, the Kupuna Group, HOBA. For you to state that they're anonymous and you cannot even get the names out, that was troubling to me too. Why can't this council or commission know who's on what side of the decisions on the architecture part anyway? But yeah, that was the only troubling part to me too, and I'm glad Desmond brought that up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't think I can. I'm not sure if I can share the names, because we've had people ask before if we can share the names and contacts out, and then I was always told I couldn't share. So I just don't feel comfortable doing that right now, but maybe we could follow up later if I have to check again. But I don't want to get myself in trouble and share out information I'm not supposed to share. So, but I feel like, yeah, if maybe we could follow up later or something, and then
That's what I was offering as you had that glitch, was that and county staff's more than happy to help as intermediary on that too. If we have concerns from
we have had this. Oh, I'm sorry.
When you speak with the Kupuna Council, just let them know Uncle Des wants to know who they are.
Okay. You guys probably all know each other, guaranteed. But yeah, we've had this group. This group was developed many decades ago, and it's a good consultation group. So yeah, I'm sure you guys all know each other, and we're happy to include you in any of the consultation for the nomination or anything. So.
As a member of the Cultural Commission, I think we should have privilege to that, and we should discuss with them too exactly what's happening, because this is a very important project, Yuan.
It is.
I'm sharing this because I want to protect you and your family from doing this, as well as the national park. But it's important to know that to protect you and put this protection, want to make sure.
It's 11:30. So we'll
So
make it before
when
11.
you go to the council, tell them, yeah, Uncle Des like me.
Okay.
Hey, and Desmond, in the introduction to the TCP study, there is a list of Kapuna and folks who were consulted, and some of them are listed as being on the group. So that might be a good
Oh,
start where you can look at some of the names.
oh, good. Okay, I didn't realize that was on there. Yeah, if you want to go to the document, then there's a list of people that are involved in the consultation.
It's on page 6 of the introduction. They have
Especially with what's happening currently with our Lahui, I'm really concerned that we really need to come together.
Yeah.
Regardless of, what is built around us from the Western world, that we remain kanakamaoli on this. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's great. I appreciate that comment. I want this to work well. So, having everybody involved and providing feedback is what we need, and so I don't want this just to be a process. I want it to be a process that works, so for protection and perpetuation for the future. So I appreciate that comment a lot. And that's the goal. And it's a big thing. So, it's not going to be an easy thing to put together. So to have everybody provide, the information and the comments is really appreciated.
Summer, one question too that I just want to follow up on, and I think Chairman Clark asked, as we move forward, or as the park moves forward with the nomination, do you guys have any plans for broader public meetings or any outreach to the community to say, either we're done with the TCP study, or just asking?
We do have like several consulting parties, including, you jumped in when you emailed. And so we are, sharing out all the drafts with the consulting parties. We haven't done any public meetings or anything, but we have a multiple groups that are involved in the review and the feedback. So I am glad to have you guys involved as well, so that we can get more feedback to kind of, guide this process along, which is what we need. So I appreciate you guys taking the time out to look at this and provide your comments.
Nicole, do you know what you'd like to share?
So I just wanted to share that yes, Uncle Desmond does make a good point. Would it be currently I'm working with Professor Daviana McGregor on a project for the Kaho park, and I met with the cultural person with Tyler Paikuri and in privately, and he did share the list. So maybe Uncle can meet with you, and maybe he can become part of that list if he would with you, Summer. I don't know. And then I was able to get some, see who's on the list and who we need to talk to and who we need to interview. So maybe that might work. I don't know how you folks do it down at Havo, but yeah, so I just wanted to share that. So.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great thing. Yeah, let's follow up after. I mean, this is a public forum, so yeah, let's just follow up after, and my contact information can be provided, and then we can talk.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Get him, Uncle Desmond. Yeah, you can be part of the list. Yeah, tell you want to be part of that list. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I wanted to also share. I need to take my mom to a doctor's appointment soon. So is it okay if I?
Yes, ma'am.
The meeting. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Aloha,
nice to meet
everyone.
Yeah, yes, cool.
Good to see you, folks.
Kule. Manao.
Mahalo piha. Thanks for the opportunity and your presentation, Summer. The work that Kepa and Onaona do is amazing. Lots of beautiful information. And when Uncle Des was asking the question, I kind of did go right to the document, and as we know, very identifiable is Kepa and Onauna's studies that they do. But I went right to the back where we know the oral history interviews reside. And Uncle Des, you probably more familiar with these people, that they're Inoa, but looking through Kepa's oral histories, the Hawaniʻo, Waipa, Kavelo, Mary Kavena Pukui, Puamo'o. These are the people that Ohana members that Kepa included in the ethnographic study that he had done. Just kind of reading through them, and these are people, it's in my read through very quickly at this point, Ma'a to the Aina there, I imagine Pele Iholani is another Ohana that is included. So, Uncle Des is very right and is appropriate where people of place are included. So Summer, that you folks have confidence in the people that you have seated, that these are people of place, lineal descendants, genealogically tied to place, and maybe the net needs to be casted wider, perhaps, to get some of the Inoa and Ohana that Uncle mentioned. Then, like you're saying, great time to do that. The inclusion as much as can be included, in as much as the people of place speak right into what is rightfully their kuleana to speak into, is very important. I do like some of the wording in the process of looking at a living community and rooted in a community's culture. Those things resonate very deeply for me. So I'm appreciative that in right, these words, these sentiments, and these ways, life ways, are evident in the formalizing. This kind of processes in formalizing things can sometimes be mismatch, maybe like what are they talking about? But those two things, the importance of maintaining and continuing cultural identity of a community, which again is going to be a direct reflection of the people of that place. They are the community. So I impress that upon you all, and I hope for you folks as the federal agency here that have great kuleana. Nobody in this is kuleana free, but that you are confident that you are proceeding forward in a good and just way. And we're gonna, right, we all hold each other accountable in those ways to say that the voices and the people and the aina that is represented is done so by the people who should be speaking toward that. And if we've missed anybody, well, we better catch them now and include. But oya wale no ka umanao. Mahalo again.
Oh yeah, mahalo.
Well, thank you. Yes.
I have to be honest, and especially being recorded. I know the list.
Okay, good. Sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to I forgot that the oral histories have the names, and I should have. I'm glad. Thank you, Ku'ulei, for pointing that out. I just was like, oh, I don't want to share names on this public format, but yeah.
That's my family, and what's really notable is that we had an uncle come up from Tahiti, who's of the Pele clan, who came and built the canoe, the Kalapana, for the Kalapana canoe club, Puna Canoe Club, down with Uncle John Hawaiʻi down at the Halau, down in Kaimu. So I just share this because I just want to protect you, like I said earlier, Summer, but also to make sure that we come together as one. But when you mentioned Kau, I got kind of like Makau because of what's going on over there. But I ask you that, you mentioned the Kingdom Hawaii, that there is a Puna chapter with the Royal Order of Kamehameha. And they're very involved with, and I'm going to call on you, so I want your private number. Okay. That we're working very hard for Kumukahi. We begin in outside influence coming in, trying to take over that place. We have access to Honolulu Landing and Kahuvai, that we want to protect that area, especially for our children. that's the suggestion that when you start rebuilding Volcanoes National Park, that you really include our children, direct access for our children. I'm an advocate for that. And I've used this term many times that we were all kupunas, well, you folks, not me, but we were all kikis at one time, and we kupuna now. And what have we done lately? You know, so just view this, that our children are our kupuna in training.
Absolutely.
And that the cultural practitioners doesn't designate just a few, but like Kule say, we have to open that net, and allow the diverse ethnic community in Hawaii a chance to share their culture. Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's hosted by the Hawaiian culture. We greeted everyone, even today, with over tourism. We're still allowing aloha to have, but I implore you to really include our children, more access, so they can go and just to sit there in silence and listen to the manu, the wind. It's really important for our children to experience that, especially in the realm of Va'o Akua, and to reconnect. I think it's really important. So, mahalo for your time.
Yeah.
Almost lunch, and the commission doesn't provide lunch like the work council does. So I implore the chairman to really work on that.
I really appreciate this discussion, you guys, like a lot. So thank you. And yeah, I think we're on a good track. And yeah, I think we have a lot of work ahead of us, but I think we're on a good track. So yeah, I hope we can incorporate more feedback and get this to be a really good document that can help protect the lands of the park, so, and their traditions too. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you all. I just want to take a little bit of my own kuleana here, because I've been out on vacation, so I didn't necessarily. Summer, you got some good practice today. Since I was away, I didn't. There was a little misunderstanding as far as how public the meeting is. So Summer, you did great. Thank you, and thank you all, especially Uncle Des, for all the input for this. And we'll see Summer again. And like I said, if you guys want to pass things through staff, we can help as well, connect in the meantime. So that's all. I just wanted to add that.
And yes, please provide my contact to everyone. I will be happy to,
Definitely.
Talk story with you guys, hear any criticisms, any, things that we can do better, or like ways that we can make this work better. And I'm all ears. So yeah, I really want this to be a good process that works well. So yeah, please reach out.
Thank you. I'll make sure I'll make sure that individual members can contact.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you.
Mahalo, Summer. We really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
thanks, Desmond. And I will work on the lunch thing for next week.
Good luck. I have one more question. Somebody related to Bobby Jean?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you, Summer.
We can work together in this, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah.
Aloha.
Aloha.
So Matt, if you want to close that agenda item, we can talk about lunch.
Well, I move we go to Kona and Teshima's.
Sounds good. That agenda item is closed. Do I need to take a roll or anything, or are we good?
We're good.
Okay. So move on to the next agenda item.
Yes, sir.
Have another one?
This is approval of minutes from the March 13th, 2024 meeting. We'll take approval of minutes from the administrative matters portion of the agenda out of order. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the Cultural Resource Commission held on March 13th, 2024? Can I get a second, Aaron?
Commissioner Spielman moves to approve the minutes as circulated.
Second.
Second. All right, it was moved by Commissioner Spielman and seconded by Commissioner Haumea. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay, the minutes are approved as circulated. The next meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, June 12th, 2024. Staff, are there any additional announcements?
No additional. We may have one agenda item on June, but staff will follow up.
Okay, Desmond, did you have anything to add?
Just about that development on Punalu'u. Didn't come across your desk yet?
No, not yet. No, not yet. I still, I understand they just finished up, or I shouldn't say finished up. But they just had a PC meeting. I'm sorry. Today's my first official day back from a much needed vacation. June
Kevin,
may
I
be able to
can
reply.
jump in. Yeah,
Thank
that
you.
might be easier, because I do have to sit through the planning commission meetings as well. So the
Thanks.
Windward Planning Commission held 2 essentially day-long meetings taking public testimony. And on Monday of this week, they got through all of the public testimony and addressed, there were 3 petitions for contested case hearings submitted by different groups, and they granted standing to 2 out of the 3. They denied standing to a group of the Condo Owners Association for the, I can't remember the name of it. There's that little condo project that's in there. They were denied, the other 2 were granted. And so what happens next is nothing more will happen at the Planning Commission until they go through the rest of the process. The next step is the parties are all asked to go through mediation. So both of the groups, the planning department and the applicant, will all enter mediation together. That may or may not result in any kind of agreement or partial agreement or no agreement at all. If that's an unsatisfactory process, the next step will be a formal contested case hearing. And the commission did vote to hire a hearings officer if they get that far. That step will take place if it needs to following mediation. And so essentially the project is sort of sidelined until all of that process takes place.
Awesome. I have a question for you, Jean.
Sure.
Is there a standing case, or I don't know how to say that, regarding Apiki Ohana, Desmond Haumea? We sued the Nature Conservancy, Sea Brewer, as far as the grubbing of Punalu'u to the left of Punalu'u. We had filed that some years ago. I have the documents. I don't know what happened to it because the lead attorney, Gerard Liloy, passed away. And Stan Rory didn't really take it over. It's a huge case. But are you familiar with that case?
I'm afraid I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, I'll look into that. Yeah, anyway.
I am familiar. I believe there was a settlement, but I don't want to, I'm not exactly sure. So you should look into it independently.
Yeah, I'll go look through the files for that. That's all. Thank you, Gene. That's gonna be a good one.
Anything else before we adjourn? Any other commissioners? All right, this concludes the items on this agenda. Can I have a motion to adjourn this meeting? Commissioner Spielman? Oh, you're muted.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 This meeting's adjourned.
Good job, Matt. Good job.
Good job, Matt. I just real quick before everybody goes, if we can, so we've been on Zoom so long. If we ever can meet in one place for a meeting in person, staff's more than happy to do a lunch afterwards.
Yeah, I told you I'd get that.
And
I second that motion.
yeah, tell them this. Other than that, I'll look into other options for us to to get together, potentially for food. So I'm a big fan of food.
Food always.
Thanks,
See you guys
Kevin. Welcome
later.
back.
Aloha.
Mahalo.
Aloha, y'all. Thank you again.
Aloha.
Thanks.